Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. Human beings are fundamentally built for committed and monogamous relationships because they reflect the soul's ultimate journey toward God. And there's no cheating on God, so to speak. But unfortunately, over the decades, marriage has become a joke and has been redefined into absurdity, with gay marriage and soon likely polyamory on the way. But that was only because of the explosion of divorce in the second half of the last century, which flipped the idea of marriage on its head, from one primarily being about the proper raising of children in a stable, healthy relationship between mom and dad, who are viewed by God as one flesh, into being one about just adult happiness, i.e. if mom and dad say they don't feel that spark anymore after, say, 20 years, then what's to stop them from leaving and looking for that spark elsewhere? Denying them the ability to exchange their 40-year-old spouse for two 20-year-olds is literal oppression, didn't you know? But since it's only about adult happiness nowadays, then why can't it be two consenting men or two women making that decision about happiness? And on you can see it unravels, until we get bizarre stories like this one from Bill de Blasio and his wife Shirlane McRae in the New York Times. The former New York City mayor and his wife will start seeing other people while remaining technically a married couple and living in the same townhouse in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Unfortunately, it seems de Blasio's tumultuous career in politics strained their marriage, but also McRae is identified as a lesbian since even before marrying de Blasio way back in 1994. But it's unclear if she's interested in dating women now. The couple doesn't want a divorce, so the situation is being called a trial separation, and we'll see what happens. However, this movie usually doesn't end well, and it touches on a larger issue of relationship breakdown in the U.S. Many people aren't dating or getting married anymore, and a new analysis from the Pew Research Center, based on data from the U.S. Census, shows that 25% of American 40-year-olds have never been married as of the year 2021, and that's a new record. The poll also found that men are more likely to not marry than women are, and the results vary by race or ethnicity. Roughly 46% of black adults have never married, and this is twice the rate seen among Asian and Caucasian 40-year-olds. To that point, this percentage has been steadily increasing since the 1980s, back when only 6% of Americans of that age had never been married. A small fraction of these adults live with some romantic partner. However, it seems nearly 80% of never married adults between the ages of 40 and 44 were not living with a relationship partner as of last year. So what's happening to the sacred institution of marriage? Well, this issue is rooted in the transition from a Christian nation to a largely secular, godless, materialistic nation in developed worlds, in which even some religious officials are justifying divorce and slamming the institution as oppressive, marriage. This brings us to Stephen Cottrell, the Archbishop of York, England, and the Anglican Church's second highest ranking official, who is erroneously claiming the Lord's Prayer is a problem because it reinforces the patriarchy, he says, and he says, well, that's oppressive. Cottrell couched his remarks in statements about how fathers here on earth aren't always good people, and apparently referring to God as the Heavenly Father reinforces the problems we see with mortal fathers. The Archbishop has gained media attention before for celebrating same-sex relationships, considering gender-neutral terms for God, sparking worry about the Church of England possibly splitting up. It's not like it hasn't happened before, unless the church sticks to its traditional teachings. Joining us now to discuss is Terry Schilling, the president of the American Principles Project. Terry, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Kara.
Okay, so once again, Christ literally taught us the Our Father himself. Is he saying, this Archbishop of England, that God is wrong about his own pronouns?
Yes, apparently it's okay to only misgender one person, and that's God, right? This misgendering, by the way, is the primal sin according to the transgender industry, and it's the most insulting thing you can possibly do to someone, unless of course it's God. It's very obvious Jesus was a man. He was not transgender. He was not a woman. He was not a crossdresser. He was a man, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just because Jesus was a man doesn't mean that women are less than men. It just means that he was a man, and that he was made in God's image, just like we all are. We need to stop destroying our bodies. We need to stop destroying who we are as human beings. God made us this way, and ultimately this entire trans movement, along with the sexual left, it's really a rebellion against God's design for humanity, and that's what makes it so terrible.
That it is, and he uses the same argument I've heard from so many people that I talk to in real life on moral issues. They'll try and say, well, so-and-so didn't live up to whatever standard, so therefore let's just get rid of the standard itself. And so you have this Archbishop who says, well, mortal fathers aren't so great. Many people have terrible dads and terrible experiences, so what, we just get rid of the good standard of a dad?